Jason Todd did not exist in the Arkham series prior to Arkham Knight.
What's the matter? Lost for words?
He was only intentionally referenced a single time, and everything else was purely coincidence that the devs hopped on and agreed with when people pointed them out. Anything that looks like it might be a reference to him is not a reference, because he was never planned to be a part of the series to begin with. Paul Dini, who wrote Arkham Asylum and City, had originally planned for the main villains of the then untitled Arkham 3 to be Scarecrow and Hush. There was never supposed to be a Jason Todd. No Under the Red Hood-like storyline. He was simply dead at this point in the timeline, and we had all accepted that. But then Rocksteady ditched Dini, thinking it would be wise to remove a writer who had a clear plan, was in the process of executing said plan, and then completely deviate from the plan and did their own thing. Jason was completely shoehorned in, and as I've explained in many videos before, literally had to be written into existence in Arkham Knight through his torture flashbacks. And these flashbacks just made the community jump at the chance for every potential reference in Asylum and City to the character now totally being confirmed, despite the fact that it was never the creator's intention. So many coincidences in Arkham Asylum were turned into definitive references to Jason Todd, even though they were literally just set dressing that happened to connect with the character after the fact. Not every wheelchair was used to lock Jason down and beat him with a crowbar. Not every blood stain belongs to his bashed-in head. And not every scream and cry is meant to be him getting burned by the hot iron. It's an asylum. There are going to be a lot of wheelchairs because they need to strap patients down and roll them through so the staff aren't attacked. It's also a hospital, and not one that adheres to very many health and safety codes. So there's gonna be bloodstains that people haven't cleaned up. And it's filled to the brim with absolute lunatics who feel their time is used in no better way than screaming their heads off. And by the way, Jason isn't even in the asylum during the events of the game. He escaped as soon as Joker took over and released everyone, alongside Penguin, Two-Face, Catwoman, Mr. Freeze, Mad Hatter, and just a bunch of C-listers. This is one among many other things that people tried to make references, despite the fact that they are completely contradicted by other evidence from the game they were trying to reference. One of the biggest ones being this line from Joker.
Hell, I may even give you a Harley. It looks like you could use a new sidekick.
It's a complete throwaway line, meant to just be a jab at Batman not having Robin on this mission. But people have just latched onto it like I just killed your best sidekick and am now gloating to you. Even though we learned from Matter of Family that Tim is already Robin months before Arkham Asylum and fought Joker prior to Arkham Asylum and was therefore Robin during Arkham Asylum. Plus, Joker shows Jason a picture of Batman with his new Robin, meaning that it only took him 6 months to find a new sidekick and was not lacking one at the time of this game at all. If anything, it ends up being a reference to Batgirl, because in the short time span between Matter of Family and Asylum, Joker had shot and paralyzed Barbara Gordon, regulating her back to her Oracle persona. Meaning that Batgirl hasn't been seen recently, so Batman is down a sidekick at this point in the timeline. Then there's the tape in Arkham VR, which recreates Jason's fake death from Arkham Knight as an actual video instead of a hallucination. This tape was clearly recorded in this part of the medical wing in the Asylum, also known as the Silent Night Challenge map. We can tell because of the placement of this vent, which perfectly lines up with this area on the map. The problem is that it doesn't make sense. Jason was kept and tortured in an abandoned wing of Arkham for over a year. His own words, by the way.
You left me to rot in that abandoned wing of Arkham for over a year! With him.
And the medical building is not an abandoned wing of Arkham. To be fair, we don't know the exact time frame between this tape being recorded and Arkham Asylum taking place. But I can tell you that it wouldn't be enough time to unabandon the medical wing of the asylum. He would have had to be kept in either the penitentiary or intensive treatment, as those are the only buildings that have potentially abandoned wings. So why, and more importantly, how would Joker bring Jason to the medical wing just to record this video and send it to Batman? There's nothing special about this part of the asylum, and if anything, doing it right here, right next to the most open part of the building, would not be the smartest thing for Joker to do. Even if he could somehow isolate himself here from the staff, gun. He would need an actually abandoned wing in a loud area, like the penitentiary, in order to actually pull this off. Meaning no, Jason was not tortured or killed here. It was merely a system limitation on Arkham VR. There is only a single definitive reference to Jason Todd in Arkham City. During the Joker's Funhouse Challenge map, when playing as Robin, we'll play this voice line.
What? Didn't I kill you already? No? Well, there's always time, right?
And that's it. It established that the death of Jason Todd had happened at this point in the timeline, and it's why we had Tim Drake as Robin, and nothing else. More than anything, it was just a joke making fun of how there are 3 different Robins with completely different stories that people need to keep track of. And at the point of its creation, it was just a reference to the character existing in comics as a whole, not even being part of this series. And I think the biggest piece of evidence for Jason flat out not existing ties back to Paul Dini himself. Dini has been writing for DC for over 3 decades now, and he has never written a Jason Todd story. In fact, when it came time to make the new Batman adventures in the late 90s, after the already successful run of the original animated series, they had upgraded Dick Grayson from Robin to Nightwing, meaning that Batsy was going to need a new Robin to be his sidekick. And who did they pick to fill that role? Why, the more brash, quick to violence, rough and rowdy street kid, Tim Drake. Yeah, they don't even acknowledge Jason's existence in the animated series either. They jumped straight from Dick to Tim, meanwhile changing Tim's personality to more closely match Jason's for reasons. It's a common theme.
He left me.
He lost you.
To be honest, I think Paul Dini just doesn't like Jason Todd, because when the animated series was first releasing, it was just 4 years after Jason's big death, meaning during production, the character was very much still on the general public's mind. But instead of him, they went with Dick Grayson for the initial run, then basically just turned Tim into Jason for the New Adventures run. Honestly, before I even sat down and actually watched the New Adventures and just saw clips, I thought this Robin was supposed to be Jason, because he was acting just like I expected Jason to act. And even more so, immediately after Arkham Asylum released, meaning during Arkham City's production, another big Jason Todd story entered the public's eye. The Under the Red Hood movie. Meaning again, that would have been the perfect time to introduce the character because of how much hype was around him. But he didn't.
You did this to me.
I doubt he even approved the Joker line during the challenge map. Because again, aside from that, there was not a single reference to Jason in either game. Because Dini had a plan, and that plan didn't involve the second Robin. Nightwing existed, meaning the first Robin was already gone. Tim Drake is here, and the last guy just isn't discussed. Meaning either the death already happened and they've since moved on, or it was never part of the story to begin with and was never intended to come back in the third game. Do I like some of the things they were able to do with Jason? Yes. For what they had to work with, it's a compelling story. I just hate how this story so blatantly showed up out of thin air and everyone is applauding Rocksteady's attention to detail that just doesn't exist. Sometimes coincidences can happen, and we as a community need to be able to accept that.
Now I know it hurts, but sometimes you gotta be cruel to be kind.